How he plays completely determines in a lot of nights how they play as a team.
All right, Legs. We're talking about players who could swing a series. This, to me, is about role players. You made the list. I have a couple names that I just have in mind. But to me, this is about guys who are very good role players that maybe have a little bit of like variance to their game. That's kind of how I would think of this, meaning they can be great some nights, they can be bad some nights, so it's going to swing the series. But I'm curious how you approached it.
I think some of these guys are actually, they're in that area between role player and star.
Okay.
Some of them are definitely role players. I got 4 East and 4 West. We don't spend a lot of time on all of them, but I do want to cover these guys because I think – so I said earlier I was going to bring up Josh Hart, but not in the way you thought. And the reason is because there's 2 guys on their team, and I chose the other one.
Okay.
So because there's no question, you're right. Josh Hart is one of those guys. But I think that this guy is more likely to potentially win you a game or two because his upside offensively some nights is so high, and it's OG Anunoby. OG Anunoby for me, and he's always going to be great defensively, as is Hart. OG Anunoby, like he can have those games where he gives you 25, 26, like a couple times in a series. Because what we're talking about here is, like I said earlier, these series are going to be tight. I think for the very beginning in the East, these are going to be tight series. Certainly the second round and beyond. You're talking about a couple of games in the series where this is like a big difference maker because some of these guys, you're just expecting it. You're expecting Brunson to be a certain thing. You're expecting Towns to have like certain numbers. Those other guys, like Bridges doesn't fall in this category for me because I don't expect that out of Bridges. Bridges is going to be 15, 16. Like that's what you're going to get. Hart, for the most part, is going to be in that area and then doing other stuff. Oh, Anunoby has a ceiling where you can go 25, 30. And he's very capable. And if he does that, it totally changes them on a given night offensively. So here's my first one for the Knicks. Do you want to comment on him?
I think it's interesting thinking about him against the Celtics specifically. And last night, it wasn't like a huge impact offensive game. To your point, he is a guy that can win. Like if you told me he had 2 23-plus point games in a series against Boston, in my mind, Knicks' chances, the odds go way up. You're like, okay, well, if he gives you 2 20-plus point games, like, you know, good scoring output, then I think the Knicks are in the series. So I agree with you, but I think that matchup is in particularly interesting because his role is so much going to be – his focus is going to have to be so much more on the defensive end in that series, I imagine.
That's fair. That's fair. I look at him and his track record and how good he can be on some nights in big games. And I mean, there's other nights that, you know, he's a little bit quieter offensively. He's always good defensively. Yeah. But, man, the nights he shoots it well, and typically for me that means, you know, getting off to a good start, 6, 8, 10 in the first quarter. You feel like OG Anunoby is going to be here all night now. It's going to be an additional problem for teams if he gets off to a good start. If you can keep him corralled early, it's a good chance now you're mostly focusing on Brunson. Yeah. But if he gets going early in the game, now you've got a whole nother thing that you've got to deal with. So I put him down. Another guy from the game last night, I think Peyton Pritchard is one of those guys.
Yeah.
I think Peyton Pritchard, he continues to amaze me how good he is offensively, man. Like he's 6'1", if that. He's so quick with the ball, but like to get your shot off at his size off the dribble, because he's a lot more than just catching and shooting threes. He does most of his work off the dribble, and he's 6'1", and he still finds ways to get mid-rangers and gets to the rim.
And paint points, yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. Like he figures a way to score all over the floor. And like I'm looking at their team and saying, okay, well, what if Derek White struggles? Like we've talked about, he has one of those nights. And look, you know, maybe Tatum or Brown have one of those nights, and it's an important game. It's a 2-1 series. It's 2-2, whatever it may be. And bam, there goes Pritchard. Pritchard gives you 25 on one of those nights and like is the difference in the game. I do think he's that valuable to this team. Love watching him play, so I put him down here. Do you agree?
I do agree. And one of the things that I think is important about him in a playoff series is you have a big three with Tatum, Brown, and Derek White. Like you have those three on the court to start. But once you start subbing, do you lose some punch? Well, you can take one of those guys out, usually Tatum, and put in Pritchard, and it's like, yeah, we have another threat to score off the dribble from the three-point line, and you still have, you know, something of a big three in terms of three guys that require your focus defensively. And I think that's why he's so important. He completes a 48-minute rotation with big three threats around the court. So I do agree.
Very good. All right, my next one, and you know, this is off of a team that I don't expect to get out of the first round, but I do think he can potentially make that first-round series a hell of a lot more interesting, and it's Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, like if that ends up being Cleveland-Atlanta, Nickeil Alexander-Walker in that series, like he could be the difference maker in making that a much longer series than you think, because I think he's developed into that good of an offensive player. Like I watch him now, and I'm not like, okay, wow, Nickeil Alexander-Walker had 20 last night. No, now it's like that's the floor for him. Now you're expecting like he's 25, 30, maybe up, and doing it efficiently. So I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker in a first-round series, particularly if it's Cleveland, that to me could be a guy that you're really looking at, man, having a couple of huge games where now all of a sudden you look at it and Cleveland's got to win a game 7 at home.
I need it, Legs. So he's had such a great second half of the year, really a great year all around, but a great second half of the year, breaking out into a star. But I do feel like when you break out the way he has in Atlanta, it can go away. Like it can be, people will forget about this great run. It won't even become Linsanity that New York had, where it became a talking point. It just becomes a thing that only insiders or diehards really know about. If it happens in the playoffs, it's a thing. And so I need it to happen because he's been such a good player that I need this to be a mainstream. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, the star. I need it to be mainstream.
All right, my next one, Danish Jenkins.
Yeah.
And the reason is this. Now, typically, I kind of feel with Detroit, if Cade Cunningham doesn't play great, they're in trouble. I just think he's that important to their offense because they're not a good shooting team. They're great defensively. They can turn you over. They're good on the glass. But they need to score the basketball in a playoff series against some of these teams. Boston, Cleveland, the Knicks. These teams can put up numbers. You're going to get these teams in the second round. You're going to have to score. For me, if Cade Cunningham really struggles, the only way that they're going to be able to win is if they somehow get more production out of Jenkins than like you're expecting on a given night. And he was really good filling in for him when he was out. Yeah. So he's not going to get as much opportunity with the ball in his hands. But he could be on a night if Cade struggles, you go to both of them together because they have a lot of streaky guys that they play mainly for defense. Jenkins is a guy that can get you 15, 16. He can make some threes. Like if Cade is really struggling, maybe Jenkins is a guy that can bail them out on a given night, which might be a lot for Detroit because I think some of these games are going to be tougher for them than these other teams because it's just offense can be a problem for them a lot of nights. So do you like Jenkins as much as I do?
Well, what I think the story for me is you play a certain way for most of the year and Cade is obviously MVP candidate. You feel great about it. When he goes down, the team has to like look in the mirror and figure out, can we do this without him and who steps up? And that happened. They were unbelievable in his absence. They surprised me for sure. And so now you look at it and say, can you blend everything together? Can Jenkins still give you what he gives you? And you go back to what Cade obviously provided for 2 seasons now. Can you blend those things in a way that just makes you better in aggregate? I think so, because when you're young, I think you're more malleable in terms of those types of things. We can adjust because we're still discovering who we are. Is it enough time, though, is one of my big questions. Like, if this happened a month earlier and Cade comes back and you get a month now to say, like, okay, how do we use what we learned in Cade's absence and blend it? I think it works. If you only have 2-3 games, that can be a little tough, but nonetheless, I'll tell Pistons, because I see some Pistons fans in the chat and they're all upset. You're in the best spot you can be in as a fan base. Number 1 seed, but yet everybody still doubts you. And for good reason. It's just people go with history in the playoffs. They want to see it. You look at how desperately Oklahoma City fans want to be the team that everybody doubts, but yet nobody doubts them. Vegas has them as heavy favorites. Pistons fans embrace it. You only get to be doubted a few years when you're ascending, and then you just become a favorite. Enjoy this. Everyone doubts you, and if you even in the first round, second round, whatever, you get to say, haha, I told you so.
Well, look, here's the thing with them. I mean, they're going to the conference finals.
You think so? Detroit?
Yeah. Yes. The fact that they look, and I think, like I said, I've been saying all along, like any of those top 4 teams are capable of beating each other. But I think Detroit, assuming that they would get, let's say, the winner of the Cleveland-Atlanta series, and let's say that's Cleveland, you get Cleveland in the second round, I'm picking Detroit to win that series. Like, it's not like it's some aberration that they're the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. But for these people that are Pistons fans to act like they're just going to roll through whoever they would get in the conference finals coming out of the Boston, New York series, if that's how it plays out, that's just ridiculous. That's you again, having your nightlight on too bright with the logo on it. Like, just be honest about it. It's not like they're an infallible team. They have a problem with their shooting.
Yeah.
You can overcome it most nights in the regular season because there's a lot of teams you're playing that aren't at full strength. Now, and they played well without Cade Cunningham, and Jenkins stepped up. Give them credit. And they are an elite defense, and they're a great rebounding team, and they turn you over. All that stuff. They do struggle in the half court to shoot the ball. Don't act like that's not a factor. And if you play a team like Boston or you play a team like New York in the conference finals, and there are nights that those teams are going to make 18 threes, I guarantee you there's probably going to be a game when Boston makes 20 threes and you make 7, 8, 9, 10. That's tough to overcome. So don't act like it's not a factor. I don't like when people get all outraged because you act like a team it has a flaw. Give me a break, man. We're giving the Pistons all the credit in the world. We've talked about them all year. It's a tough time to lose your best player because you've got to incorporate him back now. Hopefully he finds his rhythm. But fortunately, I think they've got certainly one round that I don't think it's going to be a problem to win. And he can hopefully find his rhythm again in that. You're going to need Cade Cunningham to be really good to win the next 2 series.
Yeah.
You are. Whether you think that or not, be my guest, have at it. He's their best player on a limited offensive team. He has to be really good for them to advance all the way to the NBA Finals. And that's all we're saying. I think they're getting to the conference finals. It's going to be a hell of a year for them.
I'll go the other way. I don't think they'll make the conference finals, but we'll see. I don't.
Okay.
I mean, it's part of this depends on who they get in the first round. Orlando or Philadelphia, I think, is like a really easy, just ease into the playoff series, but we'll see how it shakes out. Cleveland versus them in the second round could be pretty compelling. All right, who's next on your list?
All right, I'm going to go one more from the Eastern Conference. You're going to love this. LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball. And I'm going to tell you why.
You're talking about all offensive player of the year?
Listen, here's why. Here's why I'm going to say LaMelo Ball. I would pull this up because I had it a second ago. I lost my page. LaMelo Ball's splits between winning and losing are so dramatic.
Yeah.
They're so dramatic. He is such a bad shooter. When they lose, and it's like it's not like that's connected. LaMelo Ball, because of the way he plays on the nights, he really struggles because he has nights, and you scattered all throughout his season. You're just 7 for 22. 4 for 19. I called the game. He would miss his first 10 threes. Like there are games when it goes ice cold and he's still shooting the ball. So for me, a guy like that in his wins, he shoots 44% from the field. He shoots 41% from the 3-point line. So LaMelo Ball is a trigger for them offensively. When he gets it going, they're a really difficult team to stop. When they lose in 30 games, he shoots 37 from the field. He shoots 30 from the 3. And he doesn't take any fewer shots.
I know.
Okay, so that's a big change to your efficiency as an offense, and that's why I put him on here. If LaMelo Ball gets cooking in that first round series, assuming they get out of play, and they got to do that, okay? Even in play-in games, if he gets cooking, they're a really tough team to corral and slow down and stop. And that's why they're much more dangerous. That's why I think like he is maybe one of the ultimate swing players. Like how he plays completely determines in a lot of nights how they play as a team.
What's fun is we haven't seen him in the playoffs, and that type of variance to me, I'm so curious which way it swings because it's a small sample size in the playoffs. It's like that one. It's not like, he had some good games, some bad games. You'll feel about the series overall, and I'm just so curious. Is he one of these guys that doesn't miss in the playoffs? I would bet it because he seems like a guy that is impervious to, like, self-doubt. So I would bet that he gets into those and he just, like, starts gunning away. But I want to see it, and I'm telling you, Legs, I am pulling so hard for Charlotte to make it out of this play-in because I just think they're the most fun option of all the teams there. And I hope it happens. I
am too. And I don't have a dog in this fight, but
just entertainment.
They're just fun. I mean, it's fun to watch them. So now we go to the Western Conference. My first guy's Keldon Johnson from the Spurs. I know, you don't believe that. You don't think that's that important. I guess I think your reaction right there is saying they're that good, it doesn't matter. I'm assuming is that what you're saying?
My thought on Keldon Johnson is that he was really important to their rotation early on in the season, but the team is just so good now that he is one of many X factors for them.
Oh man,
That's
I don't
how
know.
I feel.
I feel differently. He's also one of those guys, and there's a handful of them around the league. The reaction to everything he does in that building is different. That he is the guy, man, that they identify with. Comes in, he's a built, he's like a 6'5", 6'6" guy that plays like a power forward, but he can shoot the ball. He's always on the floor. He takes charges. To me, and look, and they are really good and deep, and they're great defensively, and they got Wemby and all that. So maybe they're not going to need him, but I do think they're going to get pushed. Depending on how these series break out in the next 2 rounds after the first one, they're going to get tested and pushed. And I do think Keldon Johnson can be a guy that can be someone you're talking about enough in a given broadcast that at the end of the game, you go, man, they wouldn't have won that game without Keldon Johnson. And I think their last 2 rounds could be that tight.
I'm so curious to see how the Spurs team performs in the playoffs because they to me feel very mature given their youth. Like Castle to me, I don't think he's going to get rattled in the playoffs because he seems like such an even keel guy. He doesn't play the game with high emotional swings. He plays the game like a Spur, quite frankly. And so in my mind, he's going to have a great playoffs, but I just want to see it. And then guys like Keldon Johnson who provide a more veteran, typically he would be the anchor, the emotional anchor. I've been here before everybody, whatever. But I just wonder how much that team will need it. Maybe every team needs it.
De'Aaron Fox. I almost said him because it's interesting about De'Aaron Fox. This is a guy that averaged 25 points a game 4 different times, and he's like under 20, and he played only 30 minutes once in the last 12 games. But that he has to. He can give you a 30-point game, and I don't know if he's going to have to. But if Castle struggles or they don't get anything out of Dylan Harper one night, maybe Fox has to take over a game a little bit and late game. I still think they rely on him. So he was the other option for that team. Next is, and we don't have to talk a lot about this guy because we do pretty often, is Aaron Gordon. That's a pretty obvious one. Aaron Gordon is, to me, like the ultimate pendulum player in this league. When Aaron Gordon really plays well and you're talking about him a lot, you're noticing him a lot, man, does that change the way you view Denver's long-term prospects in a given season?
The only reason I disagree about him being an X factor is I think he's a pretty consistent guy given the role that he has. Like he's going to defend. He's going to be the best version of himself in the playoffs. And so to me, it feels less like, he could have bad games and it hurts him. He'll be great. The only question I have for him is health. Like, will he survive? Because if you Denver to me can beat anybody when their big 3 are healthy and you have relative health behind them. They can beat anybody. But if Aaron Gordon's out, the whole system falls apart and they're going to get smoked by the top team. So he's playing great right now, and I just expect him to be great in the playoffs as long as he's on his 2 feet.
And I got one more from the Western Conference, and it is Jaden McDaniels.
Man, another one that's injury-based here, man.
It is.
He's back.
He came back. I mean, so we'll see how that goes, and it's going to be tough sledding for them regardless. I mean, I don't know what right now they're sitting there. They're going to be the 6th seed. They're locked in pretty much to the 6th seed. So that means you're either getting Denver or the Lakers. I mean, if it plays out the way we talked about earlier at the start of the show, San Antonio wins that last game of the year, pushes Denver down to 4, assuming the Lakers win their last 2 games. And now it's Minnesota Lakers in the first round, and you don't have Luka and you don't have Austin Reeves.
Wolves are winning it.
That changes how much you view who's going to win that series. And Jaden McDaniels, I think, is going to have to be a big part of that. I think Jaden McDaniels is going to have to play well in that series. And he's improved so dramatically as an offensive player over the last couple of years. I give him a lot of credit because he's such a great defender. But now, you're kind of expecting those big moments out of him offensively. And I think he's going to have to happen if they want to pull that off. And now you get this unexpected, team, Minnesota, which I don't know, maybe it wouldn't be unexpected for you. For me, it would be a little bit because of the way the Lakers were playing at one point. Yeah. The health changed everything. And now it's like Minnesota has a legit shot to win a series.
I'm going to bring them back up in just a second, though, as on our last segment.
Sure.
Jaden McDaniels is a good one just because, again, I don't know how healthy he'll be. It is nice that he came back. I was wondering why he came back rather than rested out, but maybe you want to just get 2 games under your leg.
I think that's smart.
And then you get a week off, like a whole week off, and you can recover a lot in a week. Obviously, Anthony Edwards, we want to wait and see just how he's playing once he comes back as well. So they're just such a wild card to me. But Jaden McDaniels is a huge X factor. because he can be a major offensive engine too. Like he's one of these guys that in a game 3 series tied 1-1, game 3 on the road, he has 26, 27 points. He's capable of it. Like you said with OG Anunoby, he can consistently do the part of his job he's known for, defend and disrupt. But when he gives you 25, 26 points, it's like, oh, he's also a go-to scoring guy. McDaniels has that in him. So I think he's a good pick here. I have 2 names for you, or I have 1 name really that you left off that I think is maybe the biggest X factor in all of the Western Conference playoffs, and that's Reed Sheppard. I don't think anybody's taking Houston very seriously right now. Like we just mentioned the top 3 teams, and then there's a drop-off, Minnesota, we'll see what happens. Houston, to me, they're on a run over these last couple weeks, in large part because of Reed Sheppard and just the idea of playing him with his weaknesses, but saying he just completes what we need to do. If you told me Reed Sheppard, if I told you, Legs, in a big playoff series, maybe it's round 2, maybe it's round 1, but maybe it's round 2, Reed Sheppard had 2 games where he hit 6 threes. Very possible. The guy gets red hot. If you give you 2 games in a big series against good teams where he gives you a big 3-point scoring output, you'd say, you know what? Actually, they do have a chance against those top teams if that happens.
I like this pick a lot. And he had a great start to the year, and then he had a really long stretch where he did not shoot the ball very well. I mean, talking about low 30s from the 3-point line after getting off to this incredible start. We were all talking about him and still playing a lot of minutes because they desperately need his shooting. But these last 8 games, they've won them all that he's played in. He's 50% from the 3-point line.
And I don't feel like it's crazy. He's like, his shots look like they're going in every time he shoots it.
No, that's a really good one because you're right. I think all of us collectively got so frustrated with the Rockets throughout the season that not like we completely dismissed them you can't a team like that, but definitely weren't talking about them very much anymore. And here they have the way they've quietly closed the season.
Yeah.
Right. And still really not being talked about. It could be a much bigger factor than we think. And Reed Sheppard will play a huge part of that because when he has played well this season, it is amazing how different it is to cover their team in the half court. If he's struggling a little bit or whatever, your coverages are in such a way that he just is quiet. It's amazing how much more difficult that becomes for Durant and Şengün. When you're now really got one eye on Reed Sheppard and where is he, and because he's making shots, that means now he's even more active chasing the ball. Now you're really reacting to him. It's amazing how much easier it makes it for everybody else. So that's a really good observation on your part.
When teams are good down the stretch, but nothing changed, sometimes I can be skeptical of it. Maybe they got home games, whatever. But something changed for them. They changed their starting lineup. They changed their rotation, and then they went on a run. There's just something I go, you know what? He might have completed something for them that makes them more dangerous than we're giving them credit for.
By the way, real quick, can you remember, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you'll remember this better than I will. But over the last, half dozen years, do you remember getting to the point where we're 72 hours from the season being over and we don't know any of the matchups in the first round?
Now, is it not a single one? You're right.
The play-in obviously changed that because you're not going to know the 1, 8, 2, 7. We know that, but I'm talking about the 3, 6, 4, 5s. Here we are. We don't know any of those.
You're right.
We got 3 days left in the season, so a lot's going to have to get clarified here. And maybe going into Sunday, it'll all be clarified.
It might come down to the last game, though, because to your point, 3, 4, 5 could come down to the very last day. So we might not know a single matchup until the last day, which would be kind of fun, I think. I think it would be fun. A little selection Sunday in the NBA.